Hello, am I audible right? Okay, so this meeting is basically organized by the CPC to get you a brief experience of the ZS Associates. The meeting is happening on 18th and 23rd of June in an online mode and an offline mode also. So basically, ZS Associates is approaching DAVV campus, and it now is for the students of IIPS, MCA, MTech, and of SCO, SCS, ITS, and IoT, and many more as well. So this meeting is basically organized by the CPC to get you an interview experience and how the process is of the ZS Associates. We have a few selects from IET who have been placed at ZS Associates. So first of all, we have Ruchir Namjoshi, Anuj Deshmukh, Stuti Chauhan, and Diksha Patidar from the panel. And firstly, they will give a brief introduction about themselves only. So Ruchir, you can head on with it.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Ruchir Namjoshi. I am from IET DAVV. I am currently pursuing my fourth year from Information Technology branch.
Uh, Anuj, you can go next.
Hello, I am Anuj Deshmukh. I am from final year IT branch and IIT DAVV.
Hello everyone, my name is Diksha Patidar and currently I am pursuing my fourth year IT branch and from IIT DAV.
Hello everyone, I am Stuti Chauhan, currently pursuing fourth year from Computer Engineering branch, IET DAVV.
Okay, so a lovely introduction. So getting on to the next point, Stuti will brief all of you about what's the process actually of the ZS Associates. What are the rounds? What are the interview experiences? So yeah, Stuti, please.
Okay, so the ZS Associates, after the PPT, the pre-placement talk, we were given the assessment round. The first round was the assessment round. The normal assessment round, which included around an hour of assessment. There were total 6 sections in that assessment, which included critical thinking, verbal ability, and some analytical based problem solving questions. Mainly, there were all numerical and analytical ability. There was one section, unstructured problem solving, which was the major one. Two questions were there for 14 minutes. The case study based questions were there in that particular section. After this assessment round, we were given the list of shortlisted students who were to appear for the interviews. In the BTSA role had two rounds after the assessment round. So the first round was again an assessment kind of round only. So in that round we had a online test. In that test we had 3 sections. It was scheduled in the morning from around 7:30 to 9, I guess. 1 hour 30 minutes of test it was, and in that MCQ questions only. It was totally based on SQL and only two coding questions, which were also, I would say, easy to medium level questions. And all the questions were standard questions. Nothing was like anything changed. After that test, we were given the second list of shortlisted students from that test who were to appear for the interviews. And then in my interview started and I gave my introduction. In my introduction, I also mentioned about my projects and my hobbies and everything. So in my interview, the interviewer was very friendly and the whole interview went on the basis of my project. He was interested in my project and he asked various questions, giving me various scenarios and various situations, modifying my project only. So around it was around 35 to 40 minutes complete discussion on my project, and SQL based and DBMS based questions were there. After that, he asked me some behavioral questions and some questions about ZS, and yeah, that was about the interview. And after that, after a few hours, we were given the final list of the selected students. This was my complete interview experience and the whole process.
Okay, so I would like if anyone of the panel can share their interview experience. Uh, Anuj, Ruchir, or Diksha, anyone?
Okay,
Okay.
can I say?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, so my interviewer was quite friendly. He was impressed with one of my projects. So I talked about my project for half of the time of the interview. After that, he asked me some SQL queries, basic conceptual questions on SQL, some basic coding questions, and he asked me a puzzle also. Uh, and after that he was quite impressed by me, so he went on asking technical questions, and went on going deep and deep in technical questions. Like if I answered something, then uh, he would give something else in that question. He would go deep in that question. So it was like he was explaining me. If I was not answering well, he was explaining me the concept, and then he was asking again. So basically he was trying am I able to understand or not. He was checking that am I able to understand or not. So, and yes, this was my interview experience.
There are some questions in the chat. I would like to answer them. So Shivani is asking which type of project you mentioned in the resume. So I have made two projects. One was a normal website and the other was desktop based project. It was based on Hibernate and total. Basically, the backend was Hibernate. Next, Abdul is asking what were the coding questions. So in the second round, I'm guessing you are asking about the coding questions. There, the two coding questions were asked. One was the standard question, which I guess you would have heard about, buy and sell stocks. So a little bit of modification was there, but that same question was there. And the second question was also another standard question based on strings, which was a string was given, and we had to select the number of years and dates mentioned in that particular string. So these were the two coding questions. Next, Anshul is asking how many students were selected in the first round. So after the first assessment round, there were around 150 students shortlisted. And then after the second round, around 95 were shortlisted. And from that, the final interview shortlisted around, I guess, 45 students.
Okay, so Anuj, can you please elaborate your interview experience, please?
Yes. So my interview was different from these two because no project was involved in my case. So first they asked me for introduction, and then some basic SQL question, theory questions like delete and truncate, difference between, and how to optimize queries like this. Then she asked me some HR questions like have you ever been a role model to someone, or have you ever taught someone like this? Some HR questions were given. Then there was one unstructured question, guesstimate question, and it was how many traffic lights were there in Indore. So the answer didn't matter in this question. Only I have to explain the approach for this question. And after that, they asked me about the ZS Associate and BTSA, that what ZS did and what were the clients of the main clients of ZS. These, so you can search this from the website of ZS. So keep that in mind. And one more thing, that the in online coding round, only Java and Python languages were available. C++ wasn't available. So many students face that problem because they only know C++. So keep that in mind.
So approaching the end, we have Diksha with us to share her interview experience.
Yeah, my interview experience was also good, and the interviewer basically asked me questions on SQL only, and I mentioned some projects, so he asked me on that. So some tips I want to share: that study your resume better, that don't put skills or any language which you don't know, and do SQL because they basically asked on SQL only. So prepare commands very well, and yeah, and my interview was also good, and the interviewer was friendly. Okay.
Okay, if anyone of you from the panel want to give tips or tricks that what can be, what should anyone should focus on to perform better or anything, so you are free to please. Then we can move on to the Q&A afterwards.
So I think confidence was a key factor for my selection. Even if I didn't knew any answer, I spoke it with confidence, something related to that, and the interviewer was like, "Okay, okay, so I get you." And the interviewer was giving me hints on how can I solve his question. If I was not getting anything, he gave me hints. So you have to talk to interviewer. Like he asked me a question. It was kind of a puzzle that guess the number of your generation. Nahi, guess the guess the number of your ancestors in past 10,000 years. So I didn't quite get the answer for quite for 2 minutes. So I asked him how you want my ancestors to be, like my father then his father, or you want my father mother both. So he gave on some hints. So after that I was able to decode it and then answer him. So I think you should look for hints from the interview, keep talking to him, and also be confident with your answers and practice DBMS and SQL.
Okay, one more thing. So first you frame your question in your mind, then start speaking. You can take your time, 2 minutes or 3 minutes to answer a question. Don't just do that. Speak immediately whenever interviewer finishes his question. And you can go to interview bit and search for the HR question and unstructured question, and you can read it once, so it will prepare you well for that type of question.
And I
Uh,
want to add one thing, like don't get panic if network issue occur, because interviewer understand that this problem may arise. So in that situation, don't get panic. He or she will definitely understand.
and one more thing from my side, if you are showing a very good project, like based on a very new technology, or it is doing something great, so that so the interviewer thinks that you are good with coding, so he asks you more about coding questions. So in my interview I was not asked behavioral questions at all. No HR questions, I was not asked all this. I was only asked basic coding questions and SQL DBMS, because he was so much impressed with my projects. So keep in mind, if you're showing a good project, then you should be good with coding.
I would like to add that also, along with the projects and resume, do prepare for the puzzles and guesstimates. They are also important. It depends on the interviewer what kind of questions or she wants to ask. If he or she is interested in your resume, well and good, the whole interview can go on with the projects. But if not, then it is 50-50 probability that he or she can ask you puzzles and guesstimates also. So do prepare for that.
Also, I would like to add one more point. Be strategical with your answers. Like, I ended my introduction at my project, so he continued asking about my project. So if you have a strong project, you have made it yourself. So please end your introduction with your project so that you can explain him the project for more 15 to 20 minutes. So the interview time is decreased. So he gets less time to ask you other questions, and you can drive according to yourself.
So if you guys have any more questions, you can post it in comments and they'll answer.
Okay, so the first round consists of 6 sections. Attention to detail. It was 25 question 5 minute analytical problem, which was 8 question in 8 minutes. Guesstimate, which was 2 question in 14 minutes, and numerical ability and critical thinking and verbal section. So some of the sections were easy, quite easy, but the thing mattered the most was speed. And the guesstimate question, which was 2 question 14 minutes. The correct answer didn't matter in that. Only the approach was relevant. So it wasn't that you have to write a correct numerical value to something. And for the only thing many students faced was the speed problem, because you have to answer very quickly in the first round.
So the question is, did they ask questions on language which we used in project? So no, for me, I used Python for my project. So he didn't ask any question about Python, but he did ask questions on my project. Like everything I spoke about my project, he was listening keenly, and he went on asking why I used this technology only. I made a project on machine learning, so he used what was my accuracy, and why I used deep learning in that, and how I found my accuracy, which metrics did I use. So all these questions were there.
There are many websites available, and you can search on GFG too. But it is usually unstructured, so you can think at a time. You have to just explain the correct approach or relevant approach. You can just cannot say that I assume this or like this. But it wasn't that you have to give the correct answer. So you can search on online. So it will help. It will be helpful.
For guesstimates, you can search online directly and as well as on YouTube also. The major questions for guesstimates will be there. And once you get how to solve the guesstimates, you will be able to answer any question. Doesn't matter what actual answer is.
So Akansha is asking, what did the second round comprised of? So as Stuti mentioned earlier, second round comprised of 10 SQL questions, 10 MCQ SQL questions, and then 2 coding questions and 2 SQL queries.
Okay, so just remember that the second round didn't have C++ language, and many of my friends faced that issue. Only Python and Java were available for the coding round.
Okay, so at IIT the profiles were three, but for MC and MTech, I guess the profile is only one. That's BTSA. So you have these all four. The panelists are from BTSA only.
So Abdul is asking how many questions were there in first online assessment. So I think there were 59 questions to be answered in about 70-75 minutes. Correct me if I'm wrong, Anuj. And like time was a great factor for us. And first, there were 6 sections. First section comprised of 25 questions, which were to be done in 5 minutes. So approx 10 seconds for a question. So you have to be really quick to answer those. Those were really like easiest questions you can encounter, but you have to be fast. You have to attempt all the questions. Just attempt all the questions.
The written test means the second round consists of 3 sections: 10 SQL MCQ, then 2 coding questions which were easy medium, and then 2 SQL writing query. Means you have to write a query. The schema for the table was given, and you have to write the query for the given output. It generally depends on the interviewer. Mostly
Yeah, if
it's
the interviewer likes your project, so he will be about resume. He would ask you about resume and anything you mention in it. And if he doesn't like your project, so he will go on with SQL queries and coding, etc.
yes, it is position specific. The questions were.
Yeah, Rishabh, I think complete English is compulsory for interview. uh, Tips for written assessment. So for the first written assessment, I would like to say that be really quick. Even if you don't know the answer, just guess it. Keep an eye on the time, and like you have to attend all the questions. Keep this in mind that you have to attend all the questions, and the questions were we haven't seen them anywhere else. But if you give some movement to it, you will be able to solve it. And for the second round, I thought they were really easy.
Coding questions were basic, easy to medium questions. It took us around 20 minutes to solve two questions. They were like easy to medium.
Yeah, like basic permutation and combination questions or sorting questions. For unstructured question, do have to write our approach or just numeric value? So for unstructured value, you just have to write the numeric value in the first assessment round. So Trupti asks, what is the role of BTSA profile? So I asked my interviewer this the same question: what would be my role as a BTSA associate? So he told me that it would be mainly based on data warehousing and all the projects that the company gets. You will be able to choose your stream after 1 year you work in the company. For the first 1 year, company will provide you projects, and also it can they have many fields like machine learning. I was quite interested in machine learning, so he was explaining me in based on that. So but they have other fields too.
So yes, the first round is totally based on quants and reasoning. Nothing else. No technical question. No DBMS SQL. No other language. Only quants and reasoning.
Yeah, like quants and reasoning and guesstimates with that, all those things. Was there any section wise cutoff for the first round? No, we are not aware of any section wise cutoff for the first round.
There might be a section wise cutoff, but it's not
Not
the
completely
criteria.
aware of that.
Yeah, exactly. That's the company criteria of judging or selecting a student. So if you think that don't think that there's sectional cutoff or there is an overall cutoff, just prepare well and make sure do your questions very well. With the that will be updated soon via your coordinators. The test schedule maybe in this week or in the next upcoming week. Chances are high for this week only. Okay, so I guess we have summed every question asked. Any panelist want to add something? They're free to add. Or any question? We'll be closing in a few. Any panelist, if you want to ask, you're free to.
So attend the PPT carefully because they might ask about the ZS in the interview. What
Yeah.
that
No.
ZS does and what was the main client of ZS, what BTSA role do, that kind of question. So attend the PPT carefully.
Yes. These questions will be asked by any interviewer. So go through the websites, attend the PPT, and search for ZS. This will show your interest in the company and the role they are offering for you.
Yes, all rounds were online and the final interview was on the Superset platform. And Superset platform has many technical glitches, so don't panic at that time.
How much time was there between test and interview? So test was around 7:30 a.m. in the morning, and it ended about 9 a.m. And the interviews were scheduled from 12 a.m. to 5 a.m. like in your slots, in respected slots. What I figured out, the interviewer was expecting from me is like basic SQL knowledge, basic DBMS knowledge, and the ability to learn, like learn from their hints. You should have the ability to guess what they are trying to tell, and apply it on their questions itself. So if they are asking a tough question, you are not able to answer them, then they will show that concept with a simpler question and then ask you to solve the previous question. So catch up on the hints.
Also, I would like to add, if you're not able to answer a question and you do not get the exact answer, you can mention it in before answering the question that whatever you are going to answer is your guess. Mention to the interviewer that you are guessing that particular answer and then say whatever you are thinking about it. This way, you will answer their question as well, and this won't make any bad image that you are answering wrong. You are just adding your point.
So Pal cases where were marks given for partial passing of test case in coding round. So for second question in my coding round, one of the test case was not passed out of 10 or 11 test cases. So I think yes, uh, they considered one test case. It was a boundary test case, I guess.
For ZA specifically, I would say for puzzles, you can go for GFG. GFG puzzles are enough. It will cover every puzzle. And for guesstimates, I would say directly search for guesstimates on web and on YouTube. The top ones will cover all you need to know.
This is still unknown. The selection criteria decided by the company, not by us.
No, BTSA is a technical oriented profile. Yes, as we mentioned, 3 rounds. Uh, Only one interview round was there.
Okay, so I guess every question has been answered clearly, and the panelists will be doing great with their experiences. Okay, so the
Uh,
last question from here.
Akanksha, I think you should prepare SQL from basics. What is SQL? He asked me first what is SQL, then he went on for joins and the basic conceptual questions on joins. Like he made some data tables for the SQL and then asked some conceptual questions on that. So joins was what he asked to me.
Go for SQL queries. If you cover the SQL queries, it will cover major portion.
No, data structure isn't that important in the coding round. The coding questions were basic questions.
Thank you everyone, the panelists as well as the students of the evening. We'll be ending this meeting. Thank you. Thank you everyone.